What is it?
Well, it's called a randomizer, and it's fitted to the guidance systems and operates under a very complex scientific principle called potluck. Now, no one knows where we're going. Not even the Black Guardian.
Not even us.
Hello and welcome to the Randomizer Podcast, episode 34. I am Tim.
And I'm Chaz. Good God, episode 34, eh?
Yeah.
Do you know, this is actually quite a nice one.
Thank goodness.
During the pandemic, obviously, we all put a lot of weight on.
Oh, yes.
And things. And I had a pair of jeans that I really liked, but could never fit into them.
Mm-hmm.
And quite recently, I seem to have lost a lot of weight, and I can fit into them, and they're a 34 waist, so I'm quite pleased. Quite a nice one for a change.
Always good to feel the health's moving in a positive direction.
Better than my usual, well, everything's dark and deadly, and we're all going to go to the apocalypse.
What's happened, man? You've changed.
I know.
Yeah. Welcome along. We have spoilers this time for every episode of Doctor Who up to and including The Power of the Doctor, but also Defenders of Earth, which is the trailer movie for the Season 9 box set.
Indeed.
Yeah. So let's talk about that, why don't we?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I literally just watched it with Chaz.
Yeah, we did. Nice seeing Joe again.
Yeah.
And the baby sea devil was the cutest thing ever. I love it.
Very sweet. Played by Mike Tucker, I believe.
Yeah. Really nice. Nice to see Season 9 coming out. The interesting thing that I was saying to Tim about the trailer is, and Connor and I had discussed this as well, that it does sort of have the feel of we could do this as a spin-off, as RTD is actually confirmed spin-offs are coming now.
That's another bit of news. In GQ magazine,
GQ,
did you say?
yeah.
Right.
So, no, I thought this would make quite a nice little spin-off, and it was written and directed by Pete McTeague.
Yeah, it looked brilliant.
Who has been doing a lot of these trailers.
I love the one with Nicola Bryant.
Yeah, that was really nice, actually. And as you probably remember, when we had things like Sarah Jane and Torchwood, there were obviously different people show running them. So,
You're
Pete
pegging Pete
McTeague,
McTeague for this?
I think so. I mean, the thing is, he's really is a proper Doctor Who fan. If you've ever watched the Season 26 box set, him and I can't remember the name of the woman that wrote The Witch Hunters or The Witch Finders, but they were both doing Season 26 and absolutely raving about McCoy.
Brilliant.
So.
I'll hold that thought. The Sea Devil at the end of the little film that comes out the ocean, I think if you're watching it, dear listener, have a look for its rather interesting posing pouch which conceals its massive weapon.
Absolutely.
And Is
that a weapon of mass destruction? Or a massive weapon of destruction even?
The little sort of actual features about what's on the DVD or the Blu Rays rather are very wittily done as well, because they've got Katie saying to John Pertwee, "Aren't you going to open it?" And they've comped in a picture of the box set.
That was very good, actually. It was
fun.
Interesting watching the trailer as well. We had Daleks, Alpha Centauri, Time Monster. There was also some weird looking monster I don't think I've ever seen before.
Oh, didn't you close your eyes at that moment?
Yeah.
No, I'd actually no mention of the mutants as a specific story in the box set.
More of that later.
Well, I could maybe. I know you've watched it. You're going to tell me about it later. But now that you've broken that duck, we can actually rewatch it on the Blu Ray when it comes. I think I got an estimate for end of March for it.
March.
So.
Yeah.
You did a clever thing.
We definitely must do that.
I had a quick search for it when you mentioned it was out or coming out, and I couldn't find it at all. And you eventually sent me a link, and it was labelled as TBC.
Yeah.
With a picture, and so I was like, okay, that's random. And initially the estimate for delivery was December
2024, I think.
Next year, even.
Yeah.
God. Yeah.
They always tend to do that, but the way I searched for it was because I've become so used to this now that I was doing searches for it and nothing came up, so I put in John Pertwee
Yeah, clever.
and found it.
I gave up far too easily. Yeah. So, yeah, Russell's confirmed about spin-offs and
Yeah.
note the plural.
And he said that this is the next phase of the Empire.
Nice. Yeah, well, that ties into the other thing I wanted to mention is that we've both been enjoying reading Russell's columns in DWM.
Oh, they've been great.
Yeah, they're just some of them have got a lot more kind of little gold dust nuggets of info in them than others, but they're always charming and fun. And yeah, I think we're actually subscribing to DWM mainly for that now.
It's ironic. I've actually started buying DWM again.
Well, that and the comic strip, actually, that's great.
Yeah,
fun at the
the
moment.
comic strip is good fun. The thing that I've always thought, even when Russell was there first time, is that you get more excited by his enthusiasm because he just is able to sort of talk about something that just makes you excited, and he hardly even gives anything away.
Yeah.
I mean, he'll say 3 words, but the way he's doing it, it's just literally
Some flamingo
making you sort of, act more
keys
and
you
more
up.
excited. And
Yeah.
I think he's a great promotion.
Yeah,
He's very good at that.
I don't feel. I feel I can trust that I can read what he's written without being spoiled.
Yeah, he's never going to spoil it, but he
Yeah,
is
yeah.
going to enthuse you about it.
So what else to talk about? We've had a companion announced, Millie Gibson playing a character called Ruby Sunday,
Yeah.
which is sort of half makes me think of the Rolling Stones song Ruby Tuesday, but half makes me think of an ice cream. So
I think maybe it's like a curried ice cream.
maybe it should be very sweet. Yeah, and sweet and spicy, are we thinking?
Yay.
Oh dear. No, it's she looks charming. I haven't seen her work in Corrie, but
Yeah,
there's
I
lovely
haven't
stories.
either. I'm not
Yeah.
particularly a Corrie fan, but yeah, I mean, she looks lovely, and I'm sure she'll be very good. I know she's won a few awards and things, so cool.
One of the things Russell's written about as well, or somebody's written about in DWM, is the kind of process of casting and how excited they were to meet her, and we've heard her side of
Him and Phil Collinson.
yeah,
Yeah.
how we've heard her side of coming straight out of Corrie and getting the audition practically
That's
the next
pretty
day.
cool,
isn't it?
actually.
Yeah.
The thing about the name, I mean, it's continuing the tradition of old lady names. But
Doesn't that annoy you? Because you have your antipathy to old ladies.
No, I don't mind old lady names. I just don't like
don't
old
like old ladies,
ladies.
fair
I
enough.
just think they should be, exterminated.
Well, they'll be dead soon.
Oh, well, exactly.
There's pretty much a gale blowing outside tonight,
Yeah.
so that whole story has just been underscored by spooky wind,
Yeah.
making it sound like it should be a ghost story or something.
Oh, probably, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are.
And
in
then the old lady
Scotland.
came back one
She
night.
did, yeah. No, well, we are in Scotland, so this is to be expected. This is actually, we're recording this in sort of the end of July, the height of summer.
January.
Oh, fucking
dear.
January.
Yeah. Right. Anyway, so Millie Gibson, lovely, and we also had the costume reveal for the Doctor.
Yeah, I like it. I do like it. It reminds me of something that John Lydon, Johnny Rotten, wore. I think it was in an advert for Country Life butter.
I didn't see a single safety pin in the picture.
Yeah, but no, I think it's quite nice, but I do think it'll be a costume that evolves.
Hang on,
at least
rewind.
I hope so.
John Lydon's doing adverts for Country Life butter.
Didn't you know that?
Oh my
He's
God.
done it years ago. This is what I mean about, you start off as a rebel and you end up as a
Jesus.
fucking establishment. But it was after he'd done, he was in the Jungle years ago.
No, he
for
did
the
Celebrity. Came out here.
So he won it, or he either won it or he was very popular. I can't remember.
Didn't eating the cockroaches used to be part of the
Yeah,
image?
no, he probably was, but he was fascinated by the insects, Anyway, he'd done this and he was dressed as a country gent, and sort of very silly, but
My God,
I do sort of remember him being in a similar outfit. But
Oh, right, yeah, sorry, at the risk of being more interested in Johnny Rotten.
yeah, there is another one of Lord Summerisle from The Wicker Man, Peter,
yes,
not Peter, Christopher
Christopher
Lee.
Lee, yes.
And it's a very similar look sort of thing.
That's
But
like tweed or
yeah,
it
sort of. But
there's an orange shirt underneath it.
yeah, jumper, yeah.
Jumper, right.
But I suspect it'll be one of those costumes that evolves a bit because I can't see Shooty being sort of stuck in one single costume. You know, he's a bit of a clothes source.
So, and is there a moustache?
There is actually.
Who's playing that?
Yeah.
It's the second companion.
Yeah, probably.
You think it's shaping up so far at least to look like a one Doctor, one companion again.
Yeah. Also, the interesting thing is he has rings and nail tattoos.
Rings on his fingers and bells on his toes.
Now, the actual nail tattoos are Gallifreyan script.
No.
Seriously?
Oh, that's
yeah.
fun.
That's really cool.
Go back to your roots, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that like somebody's magnified up the photo?
Oh, no, he
cool?
actually showed them in the costume reveal.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow,
You obviously didn't watch the whole thing.
No.
I just saw a picture.
I watched a bit of... not live either. I watched a bit of the Millie Gibson sort of reveal until
that
the
was
lead.
nice.
It's all too showbiz for me. I'm interested in it. I like everybody. I think it's a necessary thing, but I don't enjoy that kind of enforced Doctor Who jokes and
No, I
jollity.
understand that.
You know,
But I mean, they have kind of done that for even in the old series.
Yeah,
you know,
no.
they used to do a bit of that.
It's the oil of the engine. It's the publicity machine, and
Unfortunately, publicity is a necessary evil.
yeah.
You know.
But it sort of touches on something else for me that I feel a bit left behind and bewildered about all the extra stuff. And I didn't even think to look for this season 9 box set trailer until you mentioned. And we had a kind of quite heated discussion about it a few weeks ago about in terms of what's canon and what's not. Talking about the Pudsey cutaway.
The Pudsey cutaway, I remember that. And it is fucking canon.
Oh god, I am not going there again. It's like the podcast will be 4 hours long. But no, I think I've been sort of not dwelling on it, but sort of teasing it around in my head a bit about what it is, and I think it's just that I'm not immersed enough in day-to-day TV and things like
I understand that.
So I feel like I miss these things and come to them late, and everybody else is like, oh yeah, nail tattoos, and I'm like, you know.
Yeah. Well, sometimes it's nice to, to hear little surprises like
for
that.
sure.
I mean, in terms of extras and all these little bits, I mean, they were mainly done, a lot of these sort of things were mainly done during Moffat's era, and
life.
they are all, but the thing is, they are all on the box set, so, technically you can't miss them, or at least you have access to them.
Unlike you with the Mutants DVD, I'm not a thoroughgoing watcher of all the extras on all of these things as well.
Yeah.
It's entirely my own fault, but it surprises me because obviously I'm a massive fan. But I think it's maybe I just have a kind of limited attention span for it or something.
Yeah, but the way I look at something like that is, if you discover, say, a minisode with Matt Smith and River Song, years later, it's like a lovely little present.
It'd be like a missing episode coming back.
So
I'm waiting until they animate all of the TARDISodes. And okay, what else is there to talk about? Spin-offs, Millie Gibson. I think that's it for news, really.
I'm sure there's been.
I think there's been
else.
reveals that aren't official. Like I think the TARDIS interior's been leaked.
The TARDIS interior,
but I've kept away from
did
that.
leak. The only thing I said to you about it is I like it.
Well, actually, that sort of leads me on to a sort of announcement, which is that I've left Twitter. So I, as the Randomizer Podcast Twitter account, have stopped posting there. I haven't deleted the account or anything like that, but it's basically squarely for the reasons of Twitter's sort of ongoing disintegration at the hands of Elon Musk. But the Randomizer Podcast is at Mastodon, which, if you haven't heard of it, it's sort of very much like Twitter, but different in that it's all separate servers, and each server can have its own sort of set of kind of community rules, but all servers can talk to all other servers, so you can still reach widely, so don't agonize too much. Because I was held back at first by going, oh, hang on, what's all this servers thing, and gosh, I've got to get the right one. Kinda doesn't matter. I'm on the .social one as Randomizer Podcast at Mastodon.social, I think. I'll have to memorise that properly.
Don't expect me to read it out.
Well, I can't expect you to read out the Twitter one. So,
Exactly.
walked into that, didn't you?
Yeah.
it's at Randomizer Podcast at mastodon.social. So the .social server is quite a big one, I think. There are ones for special interests, like, kind of jobs.
Yeah, I've seen
study,
some of them,
like
special interests.
I
Like
don't mean
guitar.
that in the top shelf magazine sense.
No, I've seen
I'm sorry,
guitar and fucking jazz and it's like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Some of them are very specific.
Yeah. The thing is, you can pick one that is kind of, I think it might be a sci-fi one, but don't quote me on that. You can pick one that sort of aligns with one of your major interests, but still cross-communicate. So while we're talking Mastodon, I'll plug I'm Sorry I Haven't a Who, which is a Doctor Who themed pastiche of I'm Sorry I Haven't a Clue, the Radio 4 comedy series that gave us Mornington Crescent and other such wonderful things. So they post a bunch of kind of sort of as if it was the script of a Doctor Who themed episode of I'm Sorry I Haven't a Clue, which I've been enjoying quite a lot and joining in with here and there.
A man is the sum of his memories, a Time Lord even more so.
This is Your Cheating Memory, where we have randomly selected an old episode of Doctor Who and gone away and rewatched it. It's with the aid of the wonderful randomizer.net website, which is made by one of the creators of the Flight Through Entirety podcast, which I've also been listening to a lot of recently and enjoying a lot. So thank you very much, folks, for that. Last time we selected the Peter Davison story, The Visitation.
We did indeed.
Which, if you remember when we played that translation game, came out as philosophy after being translated through several languages.
Philosophy.
I know, I could never understand why. But enlightenment I would have got, but the Visitation.
Yeah.
So, actually, as we've not recorded for a while, it was quite a long time ago we watched it, but I can dredge up a few memories, I think. Do you want to lead off?
It's going to be rather amusing when we talk about corridors.
No, hold that thought.
Anyway, I think the more I watch this one, Earthshock is the obvious one of the season that's the cool one and everything, you love it. But this is just a really good, solid little romp, really. Interesting monsters.
Yeah.
Some fascinating little bits with the android and the people, but the best thing about it is the joy of Davison when he realises that for the rest of his tenure he has the possibility of basically turning on and off Janet Fielding when he wants to. Basically,
I think you better rephrase that.
Well, okay. If you remember, the villagers are sort of zombified by these sort of telepathic bracelets, and Tegan gets the same treatment. Eventually, she's deprogrammed, or whatever you want to call it. But occasionally you do see Davison looking longingly at the power packs, thinking, I could just shut her up right now.
Is this the one where
it'd be wonderful?
Is this the one where you claim she's an android?
Yeah.
And
pretty much.
You got her cheap because of... No, is that Frontios?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. There's quite a lot of good
The
interplay.
walk's a bit wobbly and stuff.
The walk's not right.
But I mean,
And the accent.
throughout his entire era, every time you see him looking wistful, I know he's thinking about, maybe I could just slip it on quickly and shut her up.
Well, there's the end of Arc of Infinity as well, which says, you're stuck with me, and his face, did you cut it perfectly? His face is kind of like, just falls a little bit.
Yeah, that sort of little painted smile.
Sort of grins, and then it just begins to slip from the credits roll. It's lovely. Yeah. So, Visitation. I'm very fond of it. I loved it as a kid, and obviously the sonic screwdriver's death is traumatic, and it's probably the more traumatic of the two deaths.
I think it is. Also, it's rather interesting that they gave it such a
highlight. Yeah. But
it's sort of, could just build a fucking other one whenever he wanted.
Yeah. Well, slightly poor taste foreshadowing of Adric's death to come. So.
Well, I think the sonic screwdriver was more emotional.
Closer to his heart. No, but I like the pterodactyls. I know they're not universally loved, but I think the lead one has a decent line and a decent sort of character in terms of being sort of desperate and then, refuses to take an offer of a non-evil way out of the situation.
But again, they feel like that sort of species that are not black and white. They're not just evil. They're they've got good and bad the same way as the Ice Warriors and other species.
Yeah.
So
No, it's nice. So the main guest star, Michael Robbins, is it?
yeah.
As the kind of actor.
Oh yeah, he was in the most famous thing he was in was On the Buses,
Right.
I believe.
No, I think
Wonderful.
I read that he didn't, or heard that he didn't think much of the program, but it's still an enjoyable performance.
I don't know, honestly. I honestly can't remember, but yeah, no, it's a great performance, and he's subtly hamming it up, shall we say?
What? Is that possible? It's like a
well,
contradiction in terms.
But no, he's very good, and it
like
works
saying
really
low-key
well.
Emily.
Yeah. And of course, the adventures of Nissa and the TARDIS continue.
Yes, making a giant vibrating device, and
Yeah.
it's nice. She deals with the android, and
Well, at least she's got something to do.
Yeah,
But she is
to
in her
sleep.
bedroom again. I mean, mainly, I think Nissa is basically just kept in her bedroom and told to go to sleep.
yeah, it's a shame. But like the android itself, is sort of Harlequin, very colourful looking, and otherwise kind of
Really nice,
sort of
actually.
natural colours,
And also with the cloak and everything, the whole sort of mask and
the
everything,
death
it's
mask.
rather nice,
Yeah.
sort of playing on superstition and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Well, the kind of first scene with the occupants of the house and the shooting star and all that, it's such a well sort of, it's like a little mini play all by
It's
itself.
very unusual for Doctor Who to do something like that,
And then when you sort of, you don't get to see what happens to them, you just see the aftermath. That's quite chilling.
I did like that, actually.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that as an intro. I think this was the first script written by Eric Sayward, before he sort of just had a death in every 30 seconds.
I've been listening to a lot of Flight Through Entirety, as I said, and they are generally not fans of Sayward, it's fair to say. And I think they're also the people who came up with the terms gun or frock in terms of Doctor Who stories, whether they're kind of more kind of gun-toting, sort of action sci-fi, or if they're kind of camp fun frock. I'm probably summarising that terribly, but it's a really interesting sort of lens to look at the programme through, because I think we could say like Time in the Rani is frock, all the way with.
Please don't introduce this as a new
Well, it's not mine to introduce.
segment.
But yeah, I think
No,
almost-
I'm still a fan of Sayward. I mean, I don't think there's a single Sayward story I dislike.
I think I've kind of a love-hate relationship with a lot of stuff. I do love Earthshock, and I'm definitely I was the target audience for Sayward's style of kind of teenage boy space fiction.
You still like aliens, so
Yeah, but it's definitely not without its flaws, and I think that the other thing I've realised is that it was his disintegrating relationship with JNT that did a lot of damage to the programme. Ultimately, I think.
Yeah, well, I don't think JNT comes out.
Neither of them do. No. Anyway, we stray from the Visitation somewhat, but
True.
no, it's a lovely story. I think I love the twist at the end. If you haven't watched this, if you're a new series fan maybe and have never gone back to the old ones, then I don't think I want to explicitly spoil that for you, because I think you'll enjoy the Visitation a lot more if you get that nice little twist at the end. But people who do know the twist will know what we're talking about, and I just love the cheek of that.
I kind of like the fact that you're sort of not wanting to do spoilers. It reminds me, I was watching on Friday just gone, the Graham Norton show, and M. Night Shyamalan was on there, and he was saying that he thinks there should never be spoilers. So, like, for example, if you were watching, say, Citizen Kane, you shouldn't spoil it even 80 years later. And
There's a
things
sort
like
of
that, which
certain amount of sympathy to that.
maybe as a principle it's a noble idea, but it's
not practical.
impossible to,
Well, I've said before, when I saw Citizen Kane, finally,
Yeah.
not only had I felt all of its cultural impact over those intervening years in various other kind of artworks, but I'd seen a cartoon version of it based on Ghostbusters, so I kind of knew the ending from that.
I mean, it's,
Sometimes it is too late.
I mean, but, remember we have said spoilers. No, I'm not saying we should spoil the ending, but I'm just saying.
It's an exception to my general kind of blanket spoiler warning, because I do think it's
a nice
little sort
thing.
of currant in the cake at the end there.
Yeah, I agree.
And there's also, I do think there is a kind of... I mean, the new series is barely new anymore. It's, 18 years old. And so it's almost like... Well, that's the thing that we were saying about Millie Gibson's casting, was that I think she was just born when the new series started, you know? And so it literally is the case that you will have people who've never really gone back into the dusty old days.
Absolutely.
And if they were going to, they were put off it by fucking Twice Upon a Time.
So we're... Really, I will have a fucking argument with you, and you will get upset. So don't start.
Yeah.
But
you're fishy.
So 81, this was, yeah.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. So we're talking what?
42 years ago.
Wow. Fuck me, Jim. Oof, nope. I don't even want to
So
go
you're
there.
saying it's not too soon?
No, it's definitely not.
We are extra rambly this week. I love it.
We really are.
I
But
also love how I say week as if that's the amount of podcasts we release. Yeah. Right. That was The Visitation. Oh, it's time to choose a new episode.
Look, when I give the word, press the button. The big one? Yes, maybe it works in conjunction with the others.
Any requests?
well,
random?
if we're going for telesnaps or whatever, I mean...
We say this every time. Okay, we will get what we get.
Out.
All right, well, let's try and find out. Now, what could it be?
The Doctor's Wife.
Oh,
nice. I haven't watched that for a
that'd
while.
be nice.
Back to Matt Smith.
Yay.
Yeah, lovely.
My granddad.
I'm kind of, because again, I've said before when we talked about Nightmare in Silver that I actually preferred Nightmare in Silver to this, which is the opposite to most people who love this episode. But I have watched it more than once, and I have enjoyed it more than I did the first time. And it absolutely wasn't a kind of, oh, this is rubbish the first time. I was just a little underwhelmed. So, yeah, it'll be nice to go back to it.
Your report?
We found and destroyed the enemy.
Any complications?
No complications.
While we have the randomizer fired up, we shall do a little bit of Gun or Frock. I'm only kidding. You brought that on yourself. No complications. The I suppose Gunner Frock's a bit like the old Romper Pump we used to do in some ways. Don't give me that look. Okay, so this is very simply just a quick take on something that brings us some joy, whether through its genius or its clunkiness or a bit of both, such as the Ogron's sudden leap in articulacy in saying no complications. Yeah, and season 9 coming out. I wonder which version. Hopefully they'll have both. And
well, of course they will. They'll have the standard normal version, and they'll have the zooped up version.
Zooped up one where they took that out. The Phoenix.
It's the only thing I'm a bit disappointed about. The rest of it is fantastic. In fact, just as a sort of aside to that, the reason I like Day of the Daleks now is because of that, because previously I thought it was boring, but I actually think the souped up version is fantastic.
I've always had a soft spot for it. I think Death of the Daleks is my favourite Pertwee Dalek, but
well,
is close second.
I think Death of the Daleks I don't particularly like, apart from the bit in the Exelon City.
That's not like that. It's just the...
I think generally... Even Planet of the Daleks, I think generally Pertwee Dalek stories are dull.
I've not seen Planet often, but I've seen Death hundreds of times, maybe, because of it being an early VHS release. So, yeah, that's why. That's purely why. And I think I had that one long before I had Day of the Daleks to watch. So it was one.
I think I had it before Day of the Daleks.
Yeah.
As well.
Anyway, if that comes up now on No Complications, we're screwed. Yeah. Okay, here we go. Survival.
Oh
well, the end speech.
The end speech is joyful.
Yeah.
The bit, I know it's nothing special because slow motion isn't particularly special, but I think it's done so well with Ace and Cara running.
I like
the lesbian undertones are rather...
That's a tribute band, isn't it?
Yeah.
I liked We Thought You Were Dead or Gone to Birmingham.
Yeah, that's great. I love that.
Yeah.
the motorbike bit, you know, sort of, McCoy throws Sophie Aldred off the motorbike. And especially when you know that how desperate she was to be on a motorbike.
Yeah. All right, let's do another. Dalek Invasion of Earth.
Oh, the speech.
Which speech?
The end speech.
Oh, right, leaving
Jesus.
Susan. Yeah, okay.
And getting rid of her, finally.
Right.
No, it's, I do like, I like Dortmund. I think Barbara, this is Barbara's story more than anything, I think. I think she's fantastic in it. I love her and, is it Jenny?
Jenny, yes, I think so.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. That particular actor was slated to replace Susan, but I think there was some problems going on. And that particular actor was Jacqueline Hill's best friend, who
I thought Verity Lambert was Jacqueline Hill's best friend.
well later on in life, she nursed her near the end when Jacqueline Hill was dying of cancer. It's rather lovely, actually.
Yeah. Well, I think shockingly I've maybe only watched this once, maybe twice. Wow. No, I think again it's sort of the shadow of the film is what sort of overrides.
Yeah, I mean the film is it sort of moves along quicker, you know.
So anyway, let's choose another. Mark of the Rani. Don't worry, Perry, the tree won't hurt you.
Also, the fact that Perry's dressed more hideously than the Doctor.
Somebody described it as like an upside down tulip or something.
Oh, it's vile what she's wearing.
Well,
of course, the best line in it. I'm sure it will go like a rocket, Stevenson.
The tree line is just so appalling that it works and it's funny, but that line is just.
It makes you groan, doesn't it?
Dad joke to end all dad jokes. Yeah, alright, let's do another. The Impossible Astronaut / Day of the Moon.
Oh, I love The Impossible Astronaut. And the reason I love it even now is when I put it on, because that's when I want to see Doctor Who looking beautiful.
Yeah.
And that first 10 minutes, especially in the desert, the colour, everything, the shots. I know technically when I'm going to do a rare thing here, but when you look at the Chibnall era, there are some absolutely stunningly beautiful shots.
Yes.
The cinematography, I will admit, is the best the show's ever been.
Yeah.
But that particular bit with the astronaut at the start,
that was like a taste
oh
of
my god, it's so beautiful.
I just think the silence are
they're fantastic.
One last one. Knock knock.
Who's that?
You've done that joke before.
Yay.
It's wood creatures.
It's a nice little. I kind of love the guy when they're all going to their bedrooms who's hitting on
Bill. Yeah.
Bill. And sort of, you know, he's really not getting the subtle hints to begin with.
Like her "I'm a lesbian" t-shirt. Yeah.
I mean, they're all quite funny. I love the guy who goes, "Doctor, legend." And the Doctor acting like a really embarrassing dad.
Oh god, yeah, and just hanging around. That's so fun. Yeah, alright, lovely. That was no complications. We shall uncomplicate things further in the future.
The challenge is vast, the task enormous, but let nothing daunt you.
Okay, it's challenge time. I've asked Chaz to watch The Mutants, and we're not going to wait for the Season 9 box set, thank you very much, because I firmly believe that you have a nice Mutants review for me this week, don't you?
Well, basically, sort of sitting down, I had nothing to do, so I thought, oh well, finally, might as well, you know. He's been harping on about it for so long. So I put it in, started it up, and there's a knock at the door. And this guy, can't see his face, hood up, and he goes,
Charles Abdul,
very high pitched. And I'm sort of going, yeah. And he goes,
I have to come in.
And I went, are you lost? He said,
I'm coming in.
And pushed his way past me and shut the door. Now, you know, I'm basically going blind. I have mentioned this a few times. I'm not joking when I say I am going blind. So
You're not joking in any of this, sure?
no, I just am talking about in general, you know. So anyway, my eyesight is very, very poor, so I can't. The guy's a bit blurry. So he sits down on the sofa. I said, "Oh, don't wait to be invited." He goes,
Sit the fuck down.
Oh,
right. As I say, you know, really high pitched, but I can't do it because my throat's sore. Anyway, I'm like, what the fuck? And he goes,
Switch that off now.
and I went, what? He goes,
The mutants, switch it off.
he said,
You've already been told about this.
and I went, I don't know what you mean. He said,
A couple of my guys were round earlier.
and I'm like, I don't know what you mean. He goes,
Shut the fuck up and listen to me.
and I'm going, what the hell? And he grabs me and he's saying,
We own this, we own everything, and you are infringing your fucking copyright. And there is no way we are letting you watch this.
and his voice is becoming higher and higher, and he slaps me about and he goes,
Say my name!
what?
Say my name!
Like that. And the hood falls off, and he's got massive fucking ears,
this
right?
guy's really taking the mickey.
Yeah, he really is. Massive ears. And he goes,
If you talk about this, I will fucking bury you the same way I did to the Jonas Brothers. This is part of our family brand now. You don't mess with a fucking House of the Mouse.
so I didn't watch it because I'm terrified now.
Okay, well, just don't answer the door next time.
Yeah.
It's always trouble.
Yeah, it's true.
All these corridors look the same to me.
It's time for Which Corridor is this? It's the last time for Which Corridor is this because I had a massive sprint, and actually, having stopped off just ready to watch Logopolis last time, I've now watched the rest of the classic series.
So in other words, you're admitting publicly you have no fucking life.
Yep. That's basically how I spent Christmas. I took some notes on the first few stories from Logopolis onwards, which we'll go through, but then we'll kind of I'll try and summarise, I guess. But again, with a sort of nod to and thanks to Flight Through Entirety, because that sort of drove the process a little bit, that I was really enjoying watching the story and then listening to what they'd said about it. So yeah, I can't plug that podcast enough. For Logopolis, I wrote, the effects are ropey, the master's hammy as fuck, but I love it. And
Wow.
Flight Through
Is that a
Entirety.
speed-through review?
I know, well, I'll have to be because we've got so much. Flight Through Entirety single out Anthony Ainley's best moment as the freeze frame of him in the telescope control.
I remember seeing Anthony Ainley as the master, and I just thought immediately the bearded giggle box.
So, yeah, quick thoughts on Logopolis?
I like the Auntie Vanessa doll and the policeman. I was a bit disappointed they never merchandised it.
Sure.
The Watcher, obviously, brilliant idea. Mm-hmm. I know it's been said a lot of times, but it does have a, I don't even know if it's a proper word, a funerary
Funereal?
funereal
Yeah.
feel. You know, it does feel like impending doom. Yeah. And this is the first time the cloister bell has actually rang.
And then every week
after this. And, you know, just in case, you know, I forgot to mention before, I invented the cloister room in case anybody's wondering, you know,
see
because...
episode 5, listeners, and 7, 8,
you know, because
11.
If you think back to the Hartnell era, just set after Dalek Invasion of Earth, John Isles and I wrote a short story called Set in Stone, and this is basically the introduction of the cloister room, so, you know, kudos to me.
Okay, thank you for those brief thoughts. Then we had a little sidestep after saying farewell to Tom to K9 and Company, which, of course, as we famously know, you had to watch, 8 times in a day or something
Yep.
when Connor was little?
Yeah, I mean, seriously, I've never came close to putting him up for adoption before, but, you know, I was a hair's breadth away on that one.
I found it very fun to rewatch. I think I've seen it again since broadcast maybe once in the intervening years, but the title sequence is just such a mix of geeky joy at K9 and cringing at the shit they got Liz Sladen to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, and as for the
I do
music,
love the title sequence. She's sitting sipping her glass of wine
and jogging really
they're
unconvincingly.
sort of doing it as if it's like Knots Landing or
It's
something.
like Murder, She Wrote, and yeah. But the Hecate stuff scared the shit out of me.
It's quite good, actually.
It's got Colin Jeavons in it, Kinvig's pal.
Yeah,
so I was like, I know him from something even worse than this.
Yeah.
Yay.
I tell you what, though, I am going to have my fucking revenge, though, because as soon as Connor has his own son, oh boy, am I going to have fun.
It's like, show me Love and Monsters again, Grandad.
No, I'm going to make sure fucking watches this.
It's also got the hotel inspector from Fawlty Towers in it.
Also
the actor's name I forget, but he's in there. Yeah. And actually the whole sort of danger is K9's fault, because if he hadn't scared the crap out of Colin Jeavons in the first night scene or whatever, he'd have never tried to sacrifice Brendan, who looks like a young Justin Long, I think.
Yeah, he does a little bit.
Yeah, that was a hoot. So then on to the Davison era, and just a couple of shows that I took notes for, and then all fast forwards. But Castrovalva, I forgot that they only get there in episode 3. It's like,
I love it. I love the fact that it's set in the TARDIS a lot, because I was always really excited by stories that, you know, had a lot of TARDIS scenes. I know it's all just corridors, right? Yeah. But I was always fascinated by how big the TARDIS was.
You want to know more about it.
So
where they put that mental hospital from Invasion of Time,
Exactly.
I like all the Zero Room stuff. There's a pre-titles recap of the Regeneration, but it's slightly different lines, so I think they must have reshot it.
A pre-titles?
Yeah, there's a pre-titles.
Oh, yeah. That was the very first time ever. I think only happened 3 times in classic series.
Remembrance is the
Time in the Rani.
Time in the Rani, of course, yes. It's slightly differently shot. In Logopolis, the security guards are right before them as they run to Tom, sort of right behind them, rather.
Yeah.
But then I guess they must have had a tea break or something while they had the regeneration scene.
Yeah, they started walking very slowly.
They're standing just out of shot having a fag and a cuppa.
Yeah, let them regenerate first.
Yeah, I felt quite sorry for the Castrovalvans this time. I didn't hear the thing you'd mentioned about Annie Ainley's southern New Yorkshire accent about break down your barriers, boy.
Yeah, well, it's Adric's resisting and go. I remember the bit Ainley said, he goes, "I'll break down your barrier, boy." Yeah, I don't know. It sounds different from his delivery.
But it didn't sort of stick out. Yeah. If you hadn't mentioned it, I wouldn't have thought twice. He's rather screamingly obvious as the Portreeve, I think, and I wonder if he's meant to be. But
I didn't know he was Portreeve
for
quite
enough.
a
I probably
while,
didn't when I was a kid either.
At the time.
Yeah. But it's the Rani dressing as Mel again. I've worked out that it is a Time Lord tradition to cosplay as someone else and take the piss out of newly regenerated friends.
God. The Master must win at every convention.
So for to Doomsday, there's this Lynn Footy joke that's awful and probably racist. The Doctor sort of, he says, "I'm Lynn Footy," and the Doctor says something like, "Oh, I'm terribly sorry."
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, and I hate the beginning with all the bickering. Adric's learned to be sexist between seasons.
Oh, as well. Adric's just a prick. Let's be honest. Never mind, he'll be dead soon.
But we've got Bygone or Bigon, who we should let him be himself.
Let Bygone be gone.
And Princess Viagra, I think it was. So that's probably me making my own version.
Yeah,
of the
I think
joke.
you are.
Yeah.
I kind of like. This is actually one of my favourite Tegan stories, because we learn that Tegan is multi-talented. You know, she's a flight attendant, a design, a fashion designer. I mean, a real sort of expert fashion designer, and she speaks ancient native Aborigine. You know, so you know she could get a job anywhere, but no, she decides to be a fucking trolley dolly.
That's skills as the plot requires. Early days for the character. I do. It's interesting and slightly uncomfortable the way she's set up antagonistically to the Doctor, but then he is utterly dismissive rather than taking any time to reassure her. He's just like, "Trust me, shut up and sit there." So it's kind of no wonder that she.
I also think that I'm not criticising this as a part of Davison's performance, but he's not commanding in the same way, say, Tom Baker was, and I don't mean that as a criticism. I just mean that that's part of the character. He's very sort of. He'll not go in and tell people what to do, but he'll encourage them more. Yeah. And I like Tegan being a bit more bolshy, you know, so it comes a little bit, you know, bickering and stuff. Yeah. But I think Davison's wonderful. He's one of my favourites.
So he's definitely flirting with enlightenment, I think, which I suppose is a life goal.
I do remember the cliffhanger was rather good. I am enlightenment and this is persuasion. I know it's not particularly. It was just very creepy.
Yeah, quite witty. And I love the sets. The ship feels huge.
Yeah.
Well, it probably wasn't, but
I think it's actually quite a nice little story.
I don't think I'd rush back to it, but it was one. I remember Ali said that was where he sort of faltered on his rewatch. So
I
maybe he's
don't
got past it by
understand it.
now.
It's a story I could quite happily watch. It was also the first one that they filmed for Davison. You'll see his hair.
Do you mean like back in the 60s? Yeah. So last notes are on Warriors of the Deep, which we've talked about a good bit already, but it's good apart from the Marca, of course.
Wait a minute. Did we sort of skip across King's Demon, 5 Doctors?
Yep.
Oh.
I've skipped all of those in my notes.
I see. Okay, so they never ever happened.
Well, just a couple of things to say about that. But the Sea Devils are so slow.
God.
And there's the lead one called Cervix. That was my only...
Cyrex, I think.
That was definitely
Isn't that character for Mortal Kombat?
But no. So after that, I just sort of raced through the rest of the Davison era and then through Colin and
Should have
Sylvester.
been another way.
Yeah, and I kind of don't want to delve too much into that. We'll just take the stories as they come now. But it's been a lovely journey overall to rewatch. I do long for the day when Toby Haydock and Rob Sherman finally published their 80s volume of Running Through Corridors, which inspired this in the first place. And then I guess my listening to Flight Through Entirety picked up the baton in terms of driving it forwards. But you definitely get a different take on it. But from here on in, really from the end of Tom's era onwards, this was the era that I'd watched and loved as a child, and so there was so much of that for me in remembering what I remembered apart from anything else. And some of them, of course, I've watched hundreds of times in the meantime, like 5 Doctors and so on.
I suppose I do remember a little bit of Pertwee, but my main memories, my main sort of growing up memories are from Tom Baker and Peter Davison.
Yeah.
And I remember, I was really actually took to Davison immediately. And Colin Baker was the only bit I faltered at, and it was really, I think it was because Twin Dilemma. I faltered a bit, but I went back pretty quick. And I did remember enjoying him and Sylvester McCoy. I mean, I don't think there was really any 80s Doctor that I disliked in any way, Well,
I would summarise, I was generally enjoying the Colin Baker era a lot less than I have when I was younger. And maybe it's that Sayward thing, but also I was loving more Sylvester, and I still loved much of Sylvester's era when I was younger, but now it's almost flipped for me. I just adore Time on the Rani now. And I don't think it's a good story by any means, but Paradise Towers I adore, and I loved watching that again.
Paradise Towers.
That was such fun. I had fun watching Delta, which I've never been a big fan of. And Dragonfire I have seen a lot, so I was a bit like...
Dragonfire's fun. I mean, it's nice and it's a good laugh. And then you get from Remembrance onwards, other than Silver Nemesis, it's...
I even had fun watching that.
Battlefield's a little bit ropey, but, in general, it's a good run.
Well, I adore Happiness Patrol. I hadn't watched that too much, but Greatest Show, again, a bit hit and miss, but...
the bit where he walks out of that fucking tent with the and it's
like, the James Bond moment.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is...
I was braced for Battlefield this time, so I had fun watching it.
A lot of people really seem to like it. I'm like you. I think it's one of those ones that... it's okay, but it's not that brilliant. And I think people only praise it because Aronofsky wrote it, who wrote Remembrance.
I think the main problem with it is the direction.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Kev fucking
and
McCulloch.
Kev McCulloch. Yeah,
God.
it's fucking terrible.
But yeah, Ghostlight I've always
Great.
adored. It's probably my favourite McCoy. And so I am over familiar with it now, really.
Yeah.
There wasn't much new to think
Curse
about
of Henrik's my absolute
it. I
favourite.
enjoyed that
I
fair
think
enough
it's
this time.
Wonderful.
I think actually this time I was really struck by how good Nicholas Parsons was.
He's great, isn't he?
Yeah, just, solid performance.
Did I ever tell you I seen Sophie Aldred and
Tommy
Bork,
yeah.
who played Commander Soren
In a play?
play called A Cry from the Depth, The Underground Man. It was a Russian playwright. He was playing a client, she was playing a prostitute, and then we basically interviewed her afterwards and then went in the pub crawl with her.
Yeah, I'm very jealous.
It was great.
And obviously I'm watching Survival with a kind of lump in my throat because it's the last one, and
no.
you know that now, which of course you didn't at the time, but I think Runneman was brilliant.
She's great.
It's again a slightly sort of awkwardly directed one here and there.
A little bit, yeah, but it is the absolute template for the new series. It
Also
really
the
is.
the best of Ainley finally, I think.
Yeah, it is his best performance.
Yeah, or at least as the
he's
master.
quiet.
Yeah.
He's quiet,
Yeah.
and I did a re-edit of some of that just to see. The bit at the start where the cat is sort of watching people, and the guy on the street is
in his car.
I basically started it with a cat, and then cut in a bit of Ainley saying, "Show me," and then you see the guy does that bit, and then when he disappears, there's the white flash, and the white flash is the same white flash it goes into for the titles. So I did it as a pre-title because I just thought that would work beautifully.
And
so
did you put the marker into it?
Yeah,
thought so. Well, so that was which corridor is this? I think we've now been through all the classic corridors.
Wow, yeah,
I know. What a journey.
Well done, you, because in my 52 years, I have never done it.
Well, we're all aware of which one you keep sticking on.
No, I mean, seriously.
Damn, that would have been a good segue if we hadn't
recorded. It would have been, wouldn't it? I've never actually done it. I keep thinking I should, and maybe I should sooner rather than later, because I think I'm destined to die at some point.
Well, we all are.
Very soon.
So. It's your fault. No, but I mean, your failing eyesight is the other factor, of course. Yeah. Maybe it'll make the telesnaps look more interesting.
Well, everything will be audio by this point, I think.
Yeah.
In my box are such delights.
Box of Delights is basically our TARDIS money box full of little bits of paper with old television mostly written on it, which a lot of which Chaz has seen, a lot of which I haven't, but some of which we've both seen but just wanted to watch again. So we chose Chocky. I had seen Chocky as a child on broadcast. There are 3 series, 84 to 86, I think.
Had you seen all 3 series?
I don't remember. I think I probably did. But my memories of it from the time are very slight. I remember the name. I remember the rotating pyramid that's in the title sequence, and actually the music. I'm pretty sure
music's haunting.
Yeah, it's really lovely.
It's weird how it starts with that scream.
I know that's the only incongruous.
Very.
I think that's tonally odd. It's never really a factor in any of the sort of plot. But I don't know. Obviously, these things are made before the whole series is finalised. So. We watched Chocky, Chocky's Children, and Chocky's Challenge. Let's talk about Chocky first.
Okay, well, I mean, I thought it was fantastic, very creepy and atmospheric.
Sorry, so you'd say spoiler warning, which I didn't at the start.
Oh, yeah, of course, yeah.
It is a lovely series, so if you think you're going to watch it, best go back and do that, and then listen to us wittering on. Sorry, Chaz, carry on.
No, I was just saying that I thought it was, it starts off very pleasant, but it does, get creepy quite quickly once the kid unpacks the doll, and the doll, starts going, oh wait, Chocky, sorry.
Very good.
Yeah. No, it's the thing I love about it is that 80s, 70s thing of kids shows where they don't patronise you. It's actually, there's a lot of intelligence behind it. It's engaging. The child acting's great.
Yeah.
James Hazeldine is standout in it.
I really warmed to him. He's so lovely.
Good.
I mean, I liked him in Omega Factor, but also, he's just like, if you want Matt Smith be your grandpa, I think he's in line to be my dad.
You want him to be your dad,
Yeah, because he's just such a good presence in the story.
And you were saying about the mum, being a bit,
Well, the sexual politics of it are a bit dodgy. It's just that, there's Chocky has questions through Matthew about human sort of genders, because Chocky is kind of agender, and eventually they settle on she pronouns for Chocky, which is an interesting concept and obviously quite rare to discuss that at all in the 70s, in the 80s. But the book it's a John Wyndham book.
Oh, yes.
So it's from the 60s or earlier?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. But Matthew's mum, hold that thought. Matthew's mum sort of falls into the housewife and worrier and kind of, just sort of scared for everything. And
that's a thing of the time.
Yeah.
Even when it was made.
It's a shame, but it's but they have this whole kind of clunky conversation about, well, I suppose men and women have different roles in life, don't they? And all of that, you're kind of like, oh.
But I think maybe they're talking about, like parent in terms of birth.
Well, they are talking about
as well,
gender and biology and all of that stuff as well. But so I haven't read the John Wyndham book, I think, unless it was years ago.
I've got it.
Yeah, I kind of would love to, actually. But so I think only the first series is based on a John Wyndham.
Yeah, the rest of them, they seem to have...
It was adapted by Anthony Reid, former script editor of Doctor Who, and he, I think, then wrote the entirety of the second and third series. But the parents are, it's interesting to me as well that you've kind of got two ways to go with child has secret that the grown-ups don't know, especially a secret that nobody would believe, like an alien presence. And it goes for actually eventually the grown-ups do get folded into it.
Yeah.
And that starts with Landis, the psychologist friend of James Hazeldine's character, who he invites along to talk to Matthew, and then he comes back and the cliffhanger is Chocky is real. And then next episode it's like they've dismissed that without explicitly doing it on screen, which is weird. I mean, I think the dad is still kind of open-minded, very open-minded, but the mum's like, I can't believe your friend said that at one point.
It's quite good as well how they, the concepts that Chocky's trying to sort of impart, like limitless energy and anti-gravity and stuff. It's framed as it would be a big threat to the industrial complex.
That's the man in the white suit.
Yeah, exactly.
But also, it's interesting. It interested me that it's all framed about this is free energy and it'll economically.
The same way that Tesla was, trying to move it free.
There's no real mention that I recall of the pollution aspect that it frees the earth from as well.
Yeah, exactly. I suppose at the time it wasn't.
You've had films like Silent Running and so on.
I suppose, but it wasn't as say popular or as widely sort of acknowledged.
It's not a big societal topic.
I think it does say free clean energy at one point,
maybe,
but
it's never when they're talking about it in either rubbing their hands in greed or kind of why it's important.
I think it is interesting as well, they point out that the life of one boy or one child would be nothing compared to the billions that they would lose.
Yeah.
And the bit where Matthew goes missing in the first story, they've actually got police out with sticks searching woodlands, and that's quite dark and disturbing, for a children's series. But I think I'm really glad that they kept stuff like that in, because it does sort of impart to you, what the dangers of,
It's just occurred to me.
What?
They're afraid he's dead, but he's actually gone to Birmingham.
Dead or gone to Birmingham.
He ends up in
Brilliant.
Birmingham.
I love it.
I wonder if Ronan Monroe knew that.
Oh, Jesus. That's fantastic.
Oh, that's great.
But when we get to the second one, we introduce some new characters.
Yeah.
Albertine.
I love the old windmill, and
it's wonderful.
It's quite neat the way that he's kind of been seeing these drawings through her eyes. And James Hazeldine is only in the first and last episodes now, but we have Prentice Hancock.
And he is fantastic in it. I remember Ali's pal. Yeah, I remember. I did send a text to Ali saying I always enjoy his performances, but he was particularly good in these.
No, he's the sort of slightly overbearing and very protective dad of Albertine, who's a child genius anyway. It's a little muddy the waters about how much Chocky enables her genius, or
I think he's just. She'd have got there.
Yeah,
but
a little slower.
I think they say. The other thing about him is he obviously mellows over time. And he is, yes, he's very protective, but he's obviously very intelligent and very open-minded himself, which is rather nice.
Well, you've got the setup there is that the sinister powers who had kidnapped Matthew last year are now shadowing him in the form of Luke, the handsome gardener, I think Aunt Sissy has an ulterior motive in hiring Luke.
I was going to say something similar. I thought to myself, I bet Aunt Sissy was really chuffed when old Mellors or whoever it was had an accident. And,
which they obviously caused.
Because if you watch it a few episodes later, Luke is the one who's going in and locking a door or phoning or without asking if he can do these. And Sissy's
he's quite familiar around the house.
He's very familiar around the house, and Aunt Sissy sort of does seem to.
There's a deleted scene where she says to Luke, "Look, we're going to have to knock it off on my." He's with us. Oh, we're so cynical.
Oh, God.
No, it's the actor. Actually, there's a Q&A with the actor on the DVD, and he does mention a couple of times the very tight jeans they put him in.
Oh, jeez, yeah.
But no, and I kind of wondered if he'd have a bit of a redemption arc or anything, but there's none of that. He just scarpers at the end and is never seen in the third series. Which is a shame, because I thought he was an interesting character. And
absolutely.
It got me quite a lot with the kind of, caught up in the emotions of things. Like when Matthew's kidnapped, I was genuinely anxious for him and angry at these horrible doctors who were doing this to a child.
It was rather well done as well, because, it's Matthew, for a lot of this, is sort of suspected as a sort of villain, or he's went off the rails, because it starts with him destroying Albertine's sculpture, and it's only because Chocky has basically told him that he really has to distance himself completely.
Well, they've had the argument as well.
Yeah.
But he's so good.
He is. The actor is absolutely
He does
fantastic.
The emotional range, so much more than you'd expect from a child actor.
Because when you watch the first one and when he has that absolute meltdown...
Yeah, the car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, of course, when he has the meltdown, when he's sort of destroyed Albertine's thing, and he is, because when he's sort of, just talking now, he's got such a good range with it.
I know, I was so impressed. And I don't think he did any or much more acting.
I don't honestly know. Yeah. It's a shame, really.
Again, there's a Q&A with that actor on the first DVD. So he talks a little bit about how he got the part and so on. But just very impressed. I thought Albertine was definitely much stronger in the third series than the second. Yeah. Come a long, long way.
Very much.
And she really is the lead in that series. Matthew, again, like his father before him, pops up in only the first and the last episode of season 3.
Is his father in any of
James Hazeldine's in the first episode, I think.
Oh, right. It's a bit of a shame. Oh, yeah, I remember, because he comes in and he's talking to him about... Yeah.
I missed him a lot in the third season, but you've got plenty of other people to be going on with. The radio astronomer, who I just loved seeing all those shots of the radio telescopes.
That's fantastic.
She was quite an interesting character who did have a redemption arc, which was nice.
Yeah. The
quite hate her at the start.
the committee, the basically
does Albertine get her grant?
Yeah, which I mean the lady and the older man, you know, I mean, were obviously very open to it and everything, and the third one was the pseudo-villain.
Well, he then, so the rest of the series is informing the astronomer in her
So
antagonism.
I reckon he's knocking her off.
Well, I think there's definitely a personal connection between the two.
I think,
'cause he bends over
she,
backwards for her.
Yeah, he absolutely does. You know, because, well, you hear that she's obviously divorced from her husband,
right, yeah.
you know, because her son turns out to be one of the Chocky's
that was a little implausible,
children, as it were.
It's just a lucky coincidence that Chocky chose that child.
Yeah.
That's too many chess in that
I
sense.
suppose out of all of Chocky's children, apart from Albertine, I would say the young Chinese girl,
Sulin.
she was the most pleasant. The other two
and obviously went
about-
on to be in Blake 7.
Absolutely, and in Tomorrow People, as you will find out.
Is that there's another character called Sulin?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
But no, the American kid was just irritating, and
I didn't mind him that much. I thought I might, but he mellowed.
the other kid, Pogo Patterson, was just annoying.
Well, he was that sort of earnest child actor stuff that Matthew could so easily have been all the way through, you think. But no, I liked them as a gang. And that whole sort of teamwork thing, and you feel their pain when the thing doesn't work and it goes missing and all of that stuff.
Lot of,
although I was just like, oh god, somebody came in and stole the thing and you've changed nothing about your setup.
They kept it in exactly the same
cupboard,
place.
yeah.
It just amazed me how somebody basically, they didn't even have a bloody lock on the cupboard.
Oh, they did. Yeah.
Did they?
Yeah, they were unlocking it with a key. But
right.
I mean, one swift kick, you'd been in there. Yeah. But no, the Major Gibson, the mysterious woman with the dog, who you think she's sinister and another one of these kidnappers, and then she's not. She's a benevolent person who's going to fund their work, and then she is sinister. So it's not subtle, but the dog sort of came and went a bit, and when Albertine discovers the theft, she trips over the dog on the way, but doesn't seem to remark upon it, and it's not like it's a bit fishy that Major Gibson's dog was here.
I also liked Chekhov's pyramid, which was rather amusing, you know, when Sulin goes to put...
That was shocking.
She takes... Or she's doing something with the panel.
She faints.
Goes inside the pyramid and immediately faints.
Well, oh God, what's the American kid's name? He goes in...
Call him Dwight.
He goes in and then says, hey, can you guys hear me? And they realise it dampens their telepathy. And so she goes in afterwards and then faints, which is really shocking. You think it's going to be more kind of hijinks like surfing on the anti-gravity board. But that was fun. I thought, is he going to drop the tea tray? Because Prentice Hancock
God, that was funny.
Comes down the stairs with the teacher and does that comedy
pure
drop.
But the thing is that when she does faint, they all call for Chocky to help.
And that's the first time Gibson sees Chocky.
You know, they've never mentioned. I mean, when she's reporting to her boss, he says about Chocky. He says, "Oh, I think it's a
weird,
fantasy
all of that.
thing."
You're not sure if she's keeping it to herself.
Yeah. But they've never mentioned the Chocky angle, right? She's standing there, then Chocky does a whole bit of exposition about why this thing,
there, blah, blah, blah.
and even if I was to go in, so
like,
therefore you think, right, this is how it's, you know.
Yeah,
it's a bit clunky, but it's not, I wouldn't say it's...
I was sort of getting properly upset again at just the callousness of this army person locking a kid, and... You know, the alien, you can sort of see the lack of empathy, but a kid...
But again, it's that thing, isn't it?
He knows it's fucking airtight, you know?
Yeah, because, well, the thing is that they're wanting to militarise, obviously, which is always going to be the bloody angle for any decent scientific thing. But do they think... I mean, again... What's the life of a kid compared to global domination?
I know, but I would love once, as long as it was well written, for the military to not want to evil.
Not to be evil.
To just sort of say, you know what, we could really do bad things with this. Let's stay away.
Exactly.
Like, come on,
it would be original at least.
Yeah, I don't know how plausible, but then I only think that about the military because every kids show ever has told that's how it is.
I mean, we can't call this in any way original in terms of, you know, like the format. You know, there's not, but it's it stands out because it's well acted and it's well scripted and everything.
Engrossing and, twisty-turny in a good way. There's some clunky stuff, but I love it.
There's so many good 70s and 80s kids shows about, special powers or whatever. Tomorrow People aside, I know it is technically trash sometimes, but there's just a general love of it. But when you look at things like Children of the Stones or all
that's
these
in the box.
Hopefully, because I think you'll like that, because if we do this, Gareth Thomas, and you commented on that's what James Hazeldene's hair wants to be
when it grows up. Well, anything else to say about the Chocky series?
If anybody has never seen it and is interested in sort of, classic TV, I don't think you would be disappointed picking these three up from Network.
Yeah,
because
I keep coming back to Ali's words about Nightmare in Silver when we had him on the podcast talking about that, which was charming. I just found Chocky's show really
charming.
And it didn't disappoint
charming.
my childhood memories at all. So
no.
Well, I've got one more little nugget of fact. I was sort of reading around the books and other adaptations. There were 2 radio adaptations, one of which in 1998 starred a certain Sacha Dhawan as Matthew.
Wow.
All right, let's choose another from the box of delights. Here we go. TARDIS money box.
Not many left.
There's quite a few. I think there were at least 30 or so in there originally.
Oh yeah, we seem to think we'd never get through it.
Well, we'll see how we go. Okay.
For the benefit of the tape, Tim is doing it this time because I can't fucking see.
Well, let alone read my writing. So it's John Wyndham again. It's Dave the Triffids.
Oh, brilliant!
Did we have a sense of which one? Presumably the BBC.
Oh, it'll be the John Deteen version.
Yeah, great.
I mean,
I'm not a big fan of Dougray Scott, but he did one as well, didn't he?
They're okay. The movie's okay.
I wrote Dave the Daleks and crossed it out and put Triffids.
The movie with Howard Keel and Caroline Ford, funny enough, that's okay.
See how we go if we can get hold of it.
Possibly. The Dougray Scott version isn't bad, but the John Deteen version is the best. Absolutely.
What's happening? You're becoming one of us. Who's us? The Tomorrow People. The Tomorrow People.
We have been watching The Tomorrow People sequentially, and we've reached the infamous episodes A Man for Emily. Now, it took a while for my jaw to recover from the extensive bruising that it got when it hit the floor watching this. Now, I was aware of this from the past. My old friend William used to draw a lot, and he drew Peter Davison in his underpants for reasons which only became clear to me now. And I'd heard that Davison was in it, obviously, and you had made reference to how the commentary was hilarious.
Can I just ask? He drew Peter Davison in his underpants. Now, we know that's images from A Man for Emily. I assume there's another reason as well.
He did come out in later life,
Right, that's fair enough.
But and also that had actually made me think that he was in underpants for the whole time, much like your characters in that.
I just thought he'd been scarred by that episode.
Maybe. But no, in fact, it's only the first shot. And Peter Davison's first appearance on TV was from the ankles up in blue underpants and nothing else apart from a curly silver wig.
And God, they made Peter Davison watch it for the commentary, and I think Peter Davison got traumatised.
God, also featuring Sandra Dickinson, his partner at the time, and I don't remember who plays the Mama, but those two together are just so incredibly over the top.
I mean, we had to turn the volume down quite often because our ears were bleeding.
It was like turning the brightness down as well. Gareth Preston sent us a bit of email about his thoughts about King of the Castle, but he also happened to mention that A Man for Emily, I can't remember his phrase, but quite how shrill and difficult it is to watch. But I, having never seen it before, was just absolutely having a hoot. And I just Wow. I mean, literally, I think I just had my jaw agape through the whole thing.
There's so many bits in it.
I know.
You know, the shootout at the pub.
With Doozlum Pin?
The fucking Doozlum Pin.
Just their kind of teleporter.
And John is a sort of in his bowler
the
hat, and then the cowboy
yeah,
hat.
Jesus.
Well, basically the plot is that the ship is the one that sort of basically does everything.
Yeah, so the mama
they've learnt all their English and everything from cowboy movies and stuff.
Yeah.
That's
and so they speak with these kind of cod
weird
cowboy accents, which
yeah.
obviously sound as close to Sandra Dickinson's native accent, but
Jesus.
Davison's doing a creditable, I think, American accent all the way through. And I think the mama was a British actress, was she?
Yeah.
Or,
Yeah.
So, yeah, Jesus. But they live in this ship that looks after them and takes care of them and takes them from planet to planet. And it's a kind of one of those terrible things that sci-fi did a lot in the old days, which was, it's a female-dominated society, and look how fucking silly and incompetent the women are when they're in charge. Oh, dearie me. And that's just absolutely atrocious. But it kind of just gets, that kind of nonsense gets sort of swallowed up the sheer nonsense of the rest of it.
And for some reason, they're in fucking swimsuits.
They're kind of leotards,
leotards or swimsuits with.
Sandra Dickinson keeps jogging everywhere.
Yeah, I know. I mean, and they've all got these blonde, or
it's kind of silver,
platinum white, sort of curly wigs and stuff. And to be honest, there is nothing good you can say about it. It is absolute trash, but it's hilarious trash.
It's Timelash, sort of. I mean,
oh god, it's worse
than Timelash.
You know, sort of.
It's better than Kinvig. I'll say that now. Well, it's just Kinvig's trying to be funny, isn't it? And this is, I suppose it's trying to be funny and it's for the wrong reasons.
They must be, but I mean, it's interesting how Tyso gets sidelined for everything, isn't it? He's the Nissa of the Tomorrow People.
Yeah, it's like but no, Elizabeth manages to come on board, and God, they make a comment about her skin colour, which is pretty crashing as well. But I love the way she just picks up and instantly respects that the mama's name is not Mama, it's the Mama.
Yeah.
And everybody calls her the Mama all the way through, which makes for some clunky dialogue.
Oh God, there's another bit in it where Liz has to sort of distract a policeman, remember?
Oh God, yes.
She's dressed up in with the thing, and she does this sort of faux Jamaican accent.
That's right,
and she's and does the sucking your teeth thing. You know?
But no, so the Doozlum Pin is this plot device that they can't jaunt. Like the Tomorrow People, they have to step on a Doozlum Pin, which is a giant sort of safety pin.
I know, that you put
stuck
in the ground somewhere.
I know, it's so bizarre.
Fucking
but
weird.
There were a couple of moments where I found quite tense. So Peter Davison's character is sent down to Earth to get supplies, to get food, and he wanders through the street in his cowboy gear and walks into a greengrocer's and then starts stuffing his cowboy hat full of fruit and veg, and picks up a fish at one point, puts it in his holster, which was quite fun, but then actually shoots the greengrocer when he demands payment, and that was quite shocking.
Yeah, because you actually see blood.
Yeah, so there's this whole kind of not funny comedy build-up about how we're on candid camera or something, aren't we? But, and then he's shot, he falls down, and the two old lady extras there suddenly realise the shit got real. But then that wasn't so much the point that I was genuinely tense at, but I was just like, okay, this has turned. But then he's walking along a bit further, eating the banana with the skin on and stuff, but he comes up to a kid in a cowboy costume with a parent, simply going to a party or something. And I'm like, fuck, is he going to actually shoot a kid? Are they going to do that? And they sort of square up to sort of draw on each other. And comedy gold, he pulls the fish out of the holster instead, which I was just like, oh, thank goodness, they got around that quite nicely.
I think it spiced it up a bit.
Well, I was genuinely tense about that, because that's the thing about the Tomorrow People. You
honestly don't know what the fuck they're going to do.
Anything could happen. And then he gets in a shootout in a pub, and there's a really terrible kind of bit of pub business. The landlord's like chattering away, and there's a kind of drunk old soak at the bar who is like a 50-year-old comedy performer. And oh god, it's like the barman's trying to phone the police into the conversation. And oh dear. And then Stephen and John pitch up in cowboy outfits.
I know, I mean, it just makes absolutely no fucking sense whatsoever. I mean, we did listen to about the commentary. They themselves said they just they couldn't even work out why this was the thing.
History was made, dear listener. I actually requested that we go and listen to the commentary, I think possibly as a coping mechanism.
When they step on the Doozlum Pin, instead of, the teleport is actually a superimposed hand.
Disembodied hand. That's also what grabs Elizabeth out of space.
Yeah, exactly. It's a bit like...
Monty Python?
No, Mario Smash Brothers.
Okay,
when they fight the hand at the end.
I haven't played it or seen it. But yeah, so, gosh, just sort of astonishing.
None of it makes any logical sense.
Yeah.
But that's kind of not the point. It's just a series of jaw-dropping, what the fuck is this,
Yeah, well, I think now that I've nursed my aching jaw, we can move on to the next episode.
The sad thing is, this comes after quite a really decent one,
I mean, by
and we've had
standards.
a run of a couple of good ones, so...
I mean, you keep using that word good, I do not think it means what you think it means.
Look, anything is good when you compare it to Man for Emily.
Yeah, no, we've hit the bottom and we don't have to stop. So
and as of this episode, we've introduced a rating system out of 10.
We have,
and considering Tim asked to rewatch episodes with commentary, I suppose this has to get a 10. You did it to yourself. You only have yourself to blame.
I've properly been sucked into the cult of Tomorrow People.
Oh, by the way, just in case sort of anybody's interested, you know how Tim moans about Tomorrow People? Tim has actually bought the whole series from Amazon.
Solely because it's not all on BritBox.
Bollocks. I have it all, and I could easily sort of give
I believe in paying creators for their content.
Yeah.
Even
He's
if
actually
it is
bought it
content like A Man for Emily.
Secretly, he loves it.
Yeah, and I'm going to burn it. As soon as we're finished.
My God, I thought I knew you. You're a media burner.
So before we wrap up, we had correspondence from Gareth, who wrote to us both about King of the Castle, which was our box of delights a while ago, and about the previous episode of Tomorrow People that we watched, The Secret Weapon. So we'll go with Tomorrow People first, since we're talking about that. Gareth says, most people remember the Tomorrow People as a cheap camp television series with pantomime level acting. I certainly do now.
And they'd be right.
And yes, some of the time it certainly is. Every so often it blindsided the viewer with some unexpected grit and real drama, and Secret Weapon sees the show exploring the real world ramifications of its central idea of high evolved humans with extraordinary powers. He loved Elizabeth showing more of a tough side when she challenges Miss Conway to read her mind.
Absolutely.
And the frightened reaction from the telepath. Trevor Bannister's a revelation as the ruthless but very sincere Colonel Masters, who genuinely cannot understand why the Tomorrow People don't want to use their powers for Queen and country. And then we have a gypsy father who's happy to sell one of his own children in another shocking moment. Roger Price is commendable for featuring travellers in a mostly sympathetic light, but doesn't do them any favours by portraying them as credulous and superstitious. And lastly, about Secret Weapon, he has to agree that the Prime Minister is remarkably unimpressed by being teleported by teenagers. It's a shame because that scene could have been played a lot more lively. Yeah, quite right. Thank you, Gareth. So of King of the Castle, Gareth says, the more I think about Bob Baker and Dave Martin's gritty combination of Alice in Wonderland and Gormenghast, the more I get out of it. I love that Roland escapes the castle not by simply reaching the top and killing some sort of final boss, not by becoming king and being able to solve his problems with an order, but his victory is in understanding, in his self-revelation about not letting himself be defined by others. But in learning self-confidence, he becomes free. The king being his self-centered father was a big revelation to me the first time I watched this. Sean Lynch is excellent as the preoccupied and eccentric monarch. Talfin Thomas as Vine becomes truly malevolent as his place as the true power behind the castle is revealed. So the janitor is in control of the building.
Obviously.
The kitchen episode's another strong section, a sharp satire on the virtues of hard work, set in a meaningless Kafkaesque world. And note the slogan on the wall, work sets you free.
Yeah, that's disturbing.
Taken from Auschwitz, of course.
Yeah.
Detail probably lost on most children, but a chilling touch for those who recognise it. And like the best family TV, the drama works on more than one level, whether enjoyed simply as a spooky fantasy with colourful characters, or as a rites of passage fable. By the end of the series, Roland's really earned his freedom. King of the Castle is better than many Wonderland fantasies because our protagonist grows and changes through their journey. And that it's grounded in a tower block in a very real 70s England makes it all the more impressive. Thank you so much, Gareth. And if anybody else has any correspondence, we will tell you how to reach us in a moment.
We will pray you have correspondence. No, I mean, Gareth makes some great points there, you know what I mean? And I think really it's possibly one of my favourites of, sort of the time in terms of kids shows.
I hadn't seen it, but I was delighted to watch it.
It's the end. But the moment has been prepared for.
9 times out of 10.
That is it for this episode of The Randomizer.
Jesus.
I know. Thank you for listening. If you'd like to get in touch or if you've found a Sea Devil egg, we can be reached by email at randomizerpodcast@gmail.com. Leave us a voice message at anchor.fm/randomizer or follow us on Mastodon at randomizerpod@mastodon.social. And in all cases...
That is randomizer with an S, not a G-Z.
And in all cases, apart from the Mastodon one... No, sorry, that's completely wrong. I've screwed up for once.
Please keep that in.
Oh, I'll try.
Testicles, douche.
All right. Testes, 1, 2, 1, 2. All right, we're talking balls as usual.